The first time we met was very professional, so it was not romantic at all.
It was a professional meeting, yeah.
It was a professional meeting because we know each other on a production. We were great friends before anything happened. And yeah, the first memory itu nggak romantic gitu, lebih kayak it's very professional and quite intimidating.
Intimidating, yeah, but very much a part of the industry, acting industry, and what it is to be a part of a family in a cast, in a production. So I was cast quite late in a series, HBO Asia original series called Grisey, where Adinia was playing the lead. I was flying back from Europe and then
straight to a reading room.
Yeah. Entered one place and then, Michael, would you like to come for reading? I was like, okay. And then I remember walking up to this chalet. It's all like dark, nighttime. It's quiet, tropical climate. I've just come from -2 in London, snow, and I'm wearing this suit that I've been flying in for 15 hours. And knock on the door, and the door opens, and there's
the whole cast were there.
The whole cast, like Martino Leo and Zach Lee and Joanne Cam and
Fan Leo.
Oh, it was, and they're just like, silakan, hey, makan, minum, catching up.
But none of us were ready to actually read off script gitu. Jadi because it was an 8 episode and the script was this thick, especially mine. So everyone was just like, I'll flip around pages because we started probably like 3 hours before he came in. And then Mike, our showrunner, said, yeah, Michael will be here as well. He will join our reading because I wanted to see the dynamic between Yaudah gitu. Tapi kita semua karena masih pakai script kan, jadi masih table read semua kan. Tiba-tiba dia datang udah apal coy.
Wow.
So it was, all of us were like, he doesn't have any script.
Enggak itu.
Nice, take it, compliment.
And then we read opposite each other in one of the tense scenes, and it was, saya pikir, cool, saya bisa percaya ini aktor. She's like, it's going to be good because I can trust and I can feel the commitment, yeah. Professionalism.
It was a gruesome schedule to shoot in, and it was a gruesome place to shoot in. It's hard to kept our spirit semangat yang positif tuh. It was hard because so we need camaraderie, and so the first probably half of a year of our friendship is like very professional and
checking in
and friends.
Yeah.
Because it's good to have friends on set. Yeah.
It's rare because you can be very lonely on set, feeling like you haven't got your support network or your team, anyone to talk to. And when you go through a creative process, I'm more so from theater than screen, so it's all live all the time. That can be very isolating as well. Because the only people that understand are the people doing it with you. And if there are people that want to be alone in that, or that don't accept you for who you are, that can be very, very isolating. But the flip side is when you find a job, because it is a job, where your co-workers see you and are open and honest with you, you discover friends. When that happens, you hold on to that because it's rare. So we stayed connected with as friends for a while.
For a while, yeah. And I think the romantic journey doesn't happen until late in the friendship, I guess. Probably like 5 months after we wrapped.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
When did you come to Melbourne?
So I flew to Melbourne a few months after we wrapped the shoot with my friends, caught up with him for like, so it was only 5 days.
Yeah, it's really short, right?
It was really short. And then something sparks in Melbourne, and then you flew to Bali.
Yeah.
To meet me.
Yeah, because you went in Bali.
I was in Bali. Terus kayak, terus dia ternyata terbang ke Bali gitu. And then the romantic journey start.
That was the thing. So there were the Toshiji and myself and Adinia. There was this, it wasn't specifically scripted, but it was very much these three characters in a horrible world had good hearts. And the triangle, like a love triangle, but there was never any romance in the show. That was alluded to being set up. In terms of the story, in a dark and dirty world where everyone betrayed each other or was selfish, these three characters really tested the boundaries of purity and honesty. And so Toshiji and Adinia and myself, we connected in such a honest way that it wasn't a romantic way, although we're talking about the boundaries of this is a romance or this is a possible romance for these characters,
Yeah.
And that's very much a professional framework that needs to be isolated within a job.
Because it's very the very clear romantic relationship between the characters was my character and his character and Martino Leo's character. Tapi justru karena ada love interest itu di antara karakter tersebut, so us as a professional actor, we need to make sure that there are no residual emotion from the actor, from us gitu. Jadi it was all the characters, and there's no hidden agenda of like, oh yeah, he's doing this because he likes me, or she's doing that because she likes me. Justru kalau ada kayak gitu-gitu ya, malah kita nggak feel safe with one another gitu.
And so you need to have these clear boundaries within a profession to make a safe space. Yeah. And that's what was really powerful on the shoot, was that there was such a support within each of us.
When we started seeing each other, I think you and I, we both talk about we need to make sure that this is not the show.
Yeah.
Jadi memang agak lama tuh, making sure that this is not the residual of the show. This is not the character that still lives inside us. We made sure that we de-rolled from both of the character and Michael and Adinia that are feeling the feelings instead of the character that we were playing gitu. Jadi memang waktu itu diomongin terus gitu. Jadi we're keep about touch base with one another to make sure that okay, this is not the character. It's just making sure okay, it's us gitu jadinya.
Yeah.
So even when he came to Bali, we still talk about it until we said I love you for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is in January. Baru Januari gitu.
January.
Yeah.
Anniversary. Well, one of the many. Yeah. You know.
We started seeing one another.
Like 4.5 years, almost 5 years.
Yeah. We started seeing one another, and then we were just making sure that this is real. And then it was exclusive.
Because it's where we were living in different countries, you know. This is an international relationship. Something that very early on I remember saying, which it's been like sitting at the back though of my mind. I felt like I've known you before.
Yeah.
That was something really interesting. Was the not reincarnation, but there was just this feeling of familiarity. Like I know you, I know your soul, I know something about you, and I feel like we've met. There's not a learning and discovering. There's a safety, like a safety with each other.
Yeah. Well, of course, there is a learning and discovering moments to the entire relationship. Tapi maksudnya lebih kayak banyak nggak asing lagi gitu.
But it's more obvious when you are speaking in different languages and coming from different countries and cultures and live in different cities in the world. You know, and not having gone to Melbourne that many times.
Yeah.
Not having been to Jakarta before, and going, I think I feel I know you, but there's so many reasons why I shouldn't know you, you know, but I do. So I'm going to trust this and keep exploring, keep saying yes.
I think we have many dates. Officially, we didn't know that it was an official date.
Well, I think it was, like Adinia is saying, I don't think there was one official date, even though that sounds silly. But it was perhaps a situation of an official date in different countries, if that makes sense. So there was one in Australia, in Melbourne. There was one in Bali, Jakarta.
Tapi date-nya tuh bukan first date kalau Jakarta. Just like we have date nights as well, where we just go out and just.
Well, that's now relationship, and it's very important to have date night.
Yeah, exactly. It was, even though when we were apart, pasti we pick at least one night to have a date night weekly, even online. So that's very important. But the first few dates that I can
was it Bali?
That was
a whole big date, like a 2-week date or 10-day date.
I think so. But the place that I really remember is Candi Gunung Kawi, the one in Gianyar, one I took you to with Sarung and it was one of my most favorite candi di Indonesia, and I just wanted to share it with him, and he's very excited and respectful about it. So it was a good one.
Beautiful, beautiful time, quiet and just wandering around, connecting with a history and a culture that means something to people and has meant, and to feel that importance and to be part of that was awesome. Selfless, I think.
It's because we love art so much, we love storytelling so much, and we love cultures so much. Apalagi kultur yang berhubungan dengan Indonesia tuh Michael selalu kayak yang I wanna see it. Sekarang nonton Sudamala, beberapa pentas yang ada di teater besar, di Solo. We went to Solo just to see a couple of small shows dari teman-teman penari isi gitu. Jadi sebisa mungkin emang I took him yang tradisi-tradisi termasuk Jogja, Solo, dan Bali gitu ya. Kalau di Australia, when we were in Melbourne, he took me to see theater show. And I think one of the biggest, for me, somewhat like a date night, is his opening night of Shakespeare in Love, where he was Shakespeare. So I was in the audience, and the first time I saw him, like, oh my God, I'm dating Shakespeare. It was a bit absurd for me. It was a great show. Going to museums and galleries, and
one of the first restaurant dates I remember going
and
to.
Food. Both of us love food.
Yeah, lots of food, all different types. One of the first ones I remember going to, talking about culture, we went to Sate Senayan house in Kemang.
Sate House Senayan.
Yeah, and suka banget, tapi then mereka punya the comic book of the wayang. And I was like, oh, that would be really cool. And then you found a version in English. And it's like, and then I was going through the Mahabharata and the wayang stories, Rama and the
Komiknya Rakosasi.
Yeah, so that was food and culture.
Yeah.
I remember that very early on in our dating.
I think you would remember that one time that we went to that Italian restaurant. Just put a hole in your
One thing that connects us also is working out, keeping fit, or trying to keep fit. Balancing with eating lots and then keeping fit. And
mind you, I didn't mean it. So.
I mean what?
Ito.
So we've been working out and getting a lot of calluses on hands and.
Pasti di sini tuh ada kayak kapalan gitu kan.
And Adinia loves to pick at the dry kulit, yeah. And we're just sitting there chatting, and it's like romantic, holding hands across the table. It's like, hey, sayang, cerewet. And ow! She just pulled some skin out. And then just like Dara, just like,
no.
Iya dong.
Gak seberdarah itu. I'm not that horrifying.
No. But there was a hole in my hand. Yeah. She made, yeah. So that's another memorable date. Was it oysters and pasta and some red wine and then some skin.
Some skin.
Yeah. It's interesting. Keep coming back to the idea of why we can't pinpoint one first date, and it makes me think also in long distance when you're traveling, every time we spend some time together and then I go back to Melbourne or Adinia would come back to Jakarta, and then we'd spend a couple of weeks apart, planning the next trip, or nggak tahu kapan we're together again. We might not have booked a ticket, and it's like, I don't know when I'm coming to see you. I don't know when you're coming to see me. Is this still going? Is it not? It wasn't that it would ever disappear, but when we would see each other again, it would be like another first date. That excitement and that thrill of like, this lagi, tapi it's the first time again. So oxymoronic, yeah, like it's the first, tapi lagi. So then we'd get time and we'd connect again, and it would grow even deeper.
So yeah, I guess that's a big part of us maintaining our relationship, because it needs a lot of work.
Yeah, of course. It takes two people in a relationship, and it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of, doesn't have to be exhausting, but it's you're there for each other.
Mm-mm. And lucunya, we have that mindset from food as well.
Yeah.
The shabu-shabu.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The mindset of letting go.
It was early in the relationship. There's a story. Story time.
Bye, Mike.
Yeah. But we were in Melbourne, and we had planned a date night. We were going out we found a Japanese barbecue in Melbourne.
It's also a big thing as well, Japanese barbecue for us both.
Di Jakarta banyak, whether it's in PIM or Damawangsa Square di bawah, atau Korean barbecue, atau Gandaria City. Anyway, I'm getting hungry now. But we planned to go out for Japanese barbecue. And we're staying at a friend's place who were away, house sitting, and booked a taxi for this time and made a booking for the restaurant. And it's we're running a bit late, and Adinia's maybe running a bit later than I am, and I'm starting to get a bit anxious.
And I was feeling well.
Taxis in Melbourne, they don't really wait, or they charge. So it's like, Mom, it's like, and it's susah. So it's like, sayang, we're gonna have to go. The taxi's waiting, and we're running late, and Adinia wasn't feeling well. And so then we get into the cab, and then she's like, I don't think I'm well. And I'm like, we've got this booking, and we're going for barbecue, and if you
it's a big deal gitu, karena di Melbourne tuh agak susah selalu nyari Japanese or Korean barbecue yang enak gitu, kayak we found one, it's a big deal.
And then we get there, and we're on time. It's fine, just a little bit late maybe, and get in. No, it's fine. Here, I see. And then we sit down, and then you weren't feeling well at all, and you're like, maybe I'll just have some soup. And I'm like, I want barbecue, but do we, I don't know if they do barbecue and soup. I don't know, anxious, yeah.
So what I did was, excuse me, can I have something? Can we have both at the same table? I was like, yeah, sure.
So you asked if we can do both. And then you asked, and then it was all sorted. Like, I'll have barbecue. Daniel have soup.
No problem.
But hey, my God, come on. But the point of this whole story was then Adinia turned to me and said, what's wrong? And I said, we're not late. We're here. I'm not feeling great, but I'm still staying, and I'm having soup, and you're having barbecue. There's nothing wrong with anything that we wanted to plan. What is wrong? And oh, nothing's wrong. I just have to let it go. Just have to let it go. And you were like, okay, cool. I'm like, just give me a couple of minutes and I'll let it go. And then from that moment on, and then we let it go, I let it go, and then we had a lovely night. And it was, chill, and you started to feel a bit better and had nice food, and then we went home, and it was a really lovely night. But the point was, after that, whenever one of us would get anxious about something that was seemingly not an issue, or not that it was seemingly not an issue for one of us while the other one might feel heavy, it was a good check-in to go, hey, you're stressed or anxious, shabu shabu, like, is there anything wrong? So it started became like a phrase that we'd be like, hey, shabu shabu, be like,
oh yeah, get the
okay, yeah, actually no, it's okay, thanks, yeah, cool, and let's go forward. As opposed to like, I'm stressed banget tapi I'm here and everything's fine, but I'm still, it was a good way to check in. And so we've found things like that. Every couple, I'm sure, is different, but finds things that work for them. And through language barrier and cultural barrier, or cultural differences and language differences. Adinia's English is phenomenal, and I'm trying to learn more about Indonesia and can get some way through. And similarly with our cultures, when we find differences, if we're still holding on to stuff doesn't help a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a good way for us to non-confrontationally go, hey, can you let it go? What you?
And if you cannot, udah, jalanin aja dulu.
So that was another date, a memorable date early on in the relationship.
And the message is importance of date nights.
Yeah.
For a couple.
Yeah. Even during the pandemic when we were apart, it would be like, Friday night, do you want to watch Stranger Things and order take-in? Or I'll see you at 6:30 my time, 9:30 your time. And we'll watch an episode of The Mandalorian or something like that, and it would just be like, cool. And you'd still connect. There's nothing, or we'd fall asleep next to each other, like with the screen next to the bed. And you'd wake up and they'd be asleep and it'd be like,
Satu baterainya habis.
yeah, sometimes, yeah, that's all unplugged.
Yeah.
And those things, I think, come from an appreciation of always, like, every date was almost like a first date early on, and it made us really appreciate the time we have together and the time that we have, whether it's on a screen or next to each other, whether it's
traveling,
one at home, one out, one stuck in Machet, one not, one working, one not, neither working, both working. It's a great check-in to realize what you've got. Beep.
The best thing about being together is we started as friends, so we know how to be friends with one another. So nggak melulu kayak lovers terus gitu loh, kayak we know how to be friends with one another. We know how to be brutally honest with each other, make mistakes and yet still forgiving towards one another. Dan ketika mundur sedikit dari romantis relationship-nya jadi lebih gampang gitu, kayak yang ya juga ya, ada point of view yang lain gitu. And the distance helped, at least me, and on my part, helped me seeing things from a different perspective, like seeing things a little bit more whole, karena dari jauh gitu kali ya. Tapi belajar mengerti satu sama lainnya sampai sekarang sih masih jalan gitu, kayak there's so many stuff that I don't understand from him and he doesn't understand from me.
I think in having so many differences, coming from so many differences and growing up with so many differences, it makes you check yourself. What is this about this moment that I don't know? I might assume something, tapi cannot. I should check and see.
Always ask.
For example, just cut to Tiffany.
What were we talking about?
No, we're talking about the differences. And
our differences.
It makes you, when there are such clear differences, it makes you be aware of when you can assume things, and that in so many relationships, people might assume things unconsciously. It's not evil. It's not toxic or anything. It's just, oh yeah, I assume I assume that all the rubbish goes in the one bin, or recycling plastic dan paper dan residue dan food scraps satu bin here. Tapi rumah Jakarta, it's like residue, food scraps, plastic, paper, and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't assume that. So silly metaphor, tapi sama dengan two cultures. It's like I assume this or that. Sekarang saya tahu dan mengerti maaf kiri, atau buka puasa,
or me saying ha.
Iya.
Kayak kita kan kalau orang Indonesia kan sering banget kayak lu mau makan nggak? Hah? Buat dia it's rude.
Yeah, it's like di Australia orang-orang bilang, I'm sorry, maaf, excuse me, what did you say?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm used to or growing up. If someone goes, huh? It's like, kenapa?
Sih lo?
Have I done something wrong? Or
Jadi for the first few months tuh kayak, whenever I said, huh? He was like,
have I done something wrong? Minta maaf. It's like, nggak, itu normal. Sekarang saya bilang itu juga. And that's one of the biggest things in our relationship, I think, that we continue to work on, is to find safety in differences, find safety in understanding and space and time. As you said, like, we try and we fail and we forgive and try again, and without feeling less.
And that's important.
Yeah, it's not. And we both at times will feel that, I'm sure, but to come back to reassuring and we're not less, and that's hard in this world where it's isolating and scary and whatnot.
Yeah, apalagi sebagai aktor ya.
Betul juga.
It's one of the loneliest jobs in the world, because no one really knows what we feel even on set gitu. Walaupun kayak you can say that, oh yeah, she's doing this scene, he's doing this scene, the emotion is like this, but no one else on set or around us know how we get into that state. Diri sendiri, ourselves is the only person that knows exactly how it feels. So bertanya tuh memang penting sih, maksud tidak berasumsi.
People see the end product, but they don't see the journey.
Yeah.
So they assume the end product is the journey.
Iya. Jadi akan sering gitu merasa kayak, oh, when I'm failing, I'm less of a person or less of a personality, or there's less value in me if I'm failing gitu. Because we were there for one another as friends and lovers and best friends, sister, brother, or whatever you want to call it. Jadi bisa saling ngingetin gitu kayak, it's okay, that's fine, nggak apa-apa gitu. Jadi memang it's making sure that we're both okay in being not okay is very important in our relationship and friendship. Gitu. Immigration lawyer di Australia gitu kayak, they need to interview us as a couple as well, right? Jadi pas, okay, so Michael, tell me something about both of you. And then he went on and on and on about us.
And
terus begitu aku satu paragraf terus kelar.
Yeah.
And so the lawyer, okay, I know the dynamic between you two.
Yeah.
That's the differences as well.
The hard conversations that need to happen, happen with empathy.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. That's something that is so beautiful in meeting Adinia for me, and what continues to fuel me is that there is a fact that we're real together, that it's no matter what happens in this world, I can always come back to Adinia and she'll always see me, and I can trust that, and that's the best feeling in the world when you have a home with someone, you know, like a home here between someone. It's like a magnet, you know. You take them away and they're apart, and the difference is just geography, you know. One magnet here, one magnet there, but you put them back together and straight away they go, you know.
Susah sih pas lagi long distance juga emang it's one of the hardest things
ever done. Yeah. Dan pandemi susah banget ya. 6 bulan 2020,
2021, 11 bulan nggak bisa kan lagi. We learned a lot from those ones. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It was during those moments where I knew that I wanted to marry you. The very, very first time, and I probably didn't say it to myself, but the feeling that I had of she's someone that I'm going to be with for a long time, or just I want to be with this person rather than not. I think that early in relationships, maybe you feel that, was it was a feeling, like a physical feeling of no tension in my chest, I think. So like, and another difference, I'm a very anxious person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I carry a lot of tension here as like a protection, and as actors, we need to be vulnerable in our chest, in our heart, to be truthful to a character, whether they're happy or sad, angry or apologetic. Because otherwise it becomes fake. It becomes a mask, and it's too easy to say, I don't believe it. So I carry a lot of tension here as a person in my day-to-day life because I'm very anxious about things, you know. And
so is this a shabu thing?
Well, no, that's something different.
Oh.
This is just the first time that I knew you were the one, without saying it to myself, was whenever I would feel anxious, I'd think of Adinia and I'd be calm. Just my chest would relax. And that's, you know, when does that happen in the world? You know, like when do you think of something and you go, all my tensions and worries just kind of melt away. They freeze, they pause. And my calm comes through. And it still happens. Like even now, I'm like, you know, takut, maaf. Tapi it's like, I think of you and I'm sitting next to you, but I think of us and I go, saya bisa.
You're okay.
Yeah. Aman. When I knew that I wanted to marry Adinia, when I was like, you're the one that I'm going to propose to and ask to be my wife. I think it was when 2021 I went back, saya jalan balik ke Australia untuk job Februari. Yeah.
Berlin?
Yeah. To do a theatre job untuk 2 bulan, atau 3 bulan. It was really hard. Susah banget to leave Jakarta while the pandemic's still going on.
Yeah, because we were supposed to shoot something at that time, and then the show got canceled.
And the pandemic.
And then the pandemic started again, another way.
Tapi belum.
Belum yang Delta kan itu.
Yeah, belum. Tapi it was, I left in February, not knowing when I would come back. And that was the hardest thing to do. And so I really wanted to go back, but I was leaving my partner in a global pandemic to be alone again, and to go back to be alone, and that's really hard. And then when I got back, I did the job, which was very difficult. And then 1 week after the job finished, Melbourne went into lockdown again.
Oh, that's the Delta.
And then we were in lockdown for 5 months. But it was when I realized that I was stuck in Melbourne, not for 3 months or 4 months, but it would probably be for the year. And the way that we supported each other and checked in with each other, we would have Zoom dinners together, like we'd cook or Gojek, and FaceTime candlelit dinners. We had birthdays and anniversaries. We had movie nights and date nights, all online. We had check-ins. We had appointments with each other and with other people. We'd be, having 3 or 4 people join the conversation and chat with each other. So we were still living together apart. And it would be so easy to say, susah, udah, nggak bisa sekarang. Can't do it anymore. And I wouldn't blame anyone for that. But we didn't. And the months kept going, and it kept getting harder. But we found a way to communicate through all the pressures and the trials and the stresses that the world was throwing at us. It was the way that we were not able to get scared with the world and push away from each other, even though it's so easy to, because we're alone, we're apart from each other. It'd be easy to be survival mechanism and not need the other person or reach the other person and lean on them from afar. And I found that you were able to connect with me when I was so defensive or anxious and worried and pressured and blaming myself for not being able to be there, when the world is falling apart, or the borders are going up, walls are going up all around the world. And it was through that struggle when I realized that we crossed a river, we'd crossed a hurdle, we'd overcome something in being able to communicate during the hardest period in the world for the past, 10, 20, 30 years. That's when I knew that I wanted to be with Adinia for the rest of my life. So if we could overcome this, if we were apart for another 6 months, another year, 2 years, I would hate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hate it.
Do it, but if we have to, then...
But I'd do it. Yeah. I would hate it, but I'd do it because there's no one like you in this world, past or present or future. And I want to be with you. And so that was why when you overcome something difficult together, I think it's a sign of, there's something about going on a really huge journey. And when you get to the end of the journey, are you alone? Does anyone understand? Does anyone say, I don't understand, but I respect it and I see you and hear you, and it's okay to be where you are and who you are? And our journey's just starting, but it's that kind of feeling of going, it's an understanding where we go, hey, we've overcome something huge.
With no evil written.
And not many people expected us to. There's a lot of haters in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And
of course,
before the pandemic, there's a lot of, like keyboard warriors that want to have their say, or people that don't like interracial marriages, international marriages, interculture marriages, people with their own agendas.
Of course.
And that's hard. and for us to find solace in that, in ourselves and in our space, our home that we can build metaphorically and physically, is all the more reason to say, I'm not going to fall down. I'm not going to stop. I'm doing it because this makes me a better person. Being by your side makes me a better person.
And I guess even if we fall down, we have each other to help each other rise up again. So
so you can see that, like, I talk so much, and
and we were talking about marriage and the future and kids. It's not like, oh, I don't know anything about it. I mean, we've talked about rings and how, like, what type of weddings.
Yeah, as a couple that are like, hey, this is in the future. Nggak tahu kapan, nggak tahu bagaimana, tapi hey, this is an idea. As we grow older, like, if we want to do this, let's talk about things. Would you want this? Would you want that? And so these were things that we were talking. Like we're in we're of an age where we're getting older, and conversations like this happen, and honestly, without agenda, asking.
It's not that type of communication like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. What are we, or where are we? Where is this gonna go? It was just like a normal day-to-day. For example, we see a newborn baby, and then, oh my God, so cute. So what do you think about babies? What do you think about families? Gitu. Jadi it's very normalized. Kayak, I mean, it's an adult relationship. Itu diomongin aja gitu, ngobrol normal.
You see the world around us, and we go, hey, like, what kind of, if we got married, what kind of wedding ring would you want? Or what kind of what kind of would you want to marry? Would you want to elope? Would you want to these different hypotheses? It's not it's playful, but also it's learning. It's it's like, what kind of food do you like to eat, or what kind of clothes do you like to wear? What kind of movies? Did you ever imagine yourself getting married?
Yeah, like, are you gonna want an Indonesian wedding?
Jakarta wedding, or I've heard about Jakarta weddings being very big.
Yeah, jadi it was a normalized communication between both of us, and we were talking about it with, like, an utmost honesty, I guess, with one another, whether that excitement or even fear or anxiety, because it is scary, kan, gitu, kayak, especially in this day and age, and we're not in our 20s anymore. So we just need to be realistic about each and every single thing. Gitu. Jadi memang it was pretty normal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
easy.
It's not like consent, but it's like, it's bringing it to the table.
Yeah.
So it's an option that we can talk about, and it's not like, once you say yes, I want to get married, then you're committed. Harus, and it's like, no. This is like, hey, like, where are we? Where are you? Where have you come from? What's your vibe? What's your feeling? What's your history? What do you want in this life? Like, dreams and hopes and aspirations as well.
And this doesn't happen in one single conversation. It happens during, the whole relationship.
Yeah. I remember we were having a Zoom chat one night. Me in Melbourne, Asti di Jakarta, and it was like, what do you think of this type of ring? I'd send her a photo from a website. If we were ever to get engaged, she's like, oh yeah, it's okay. It's like, maybe this or that. And I'm, okay, cool, interesting. And that was months before I, went to shop for a ring or go, I'm going to propose to her. So it was still these playful conversations, but with a purpose, or with a memory. As I said, like, very early on, wanting to do right by Adinia's family and culture, and by myself as well. understanding where I am, where I come from, what I bring, but also what I can learn. You know, what I can share and what I can learn. And that was started off thinking about rings, thinking about style, thinking about who I know Adinia to be.
Because I'm pretty specific.
Yeah, takut waduh. No. Tapi
like, but you talk to my dad first and
yeah,
choose the ring, right?
I contacted Adinia's sister to ask for their father's phone number, which was terrifying. And then your sister, oh yeah, why do you want that? Oh, I just want to ask him something. Just check in with him about something. Okay. And then I remember messaging him, and Adinia's father's beautiful, beautiful man. Very tall, Javanese man, very tall. And I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for him. And I was messaging him, and he doesn't talk the way I do. He's very concise. You know, would we possibly be able to catch up for a Zoom conversation or a FaceTime conversation? There were just some few things that I wanted to ask you and check in with you. I hope you're well. I hope it was well. Yada yada yada. Yeah. Okay.
Now you know where I'm coming from.
So that was the start. So then I spoke to Adinia's father, and he was very, very gracious and very, very kind and open. And I asked for his blessing in me asking for his daughter's hand in marriage, if I was to do that, which he said yes to. So that's good.
Awkwardly said yes to, because he doesn't know what to do. Like, too much.
Okay. Sekarang apa? Harus bilang iya. Okay, iya.
Oh, yeah, lucu.
And then I went out with one of my best friends, and we went ring shopping.
This I didn't know anything about.
So we were trying on rings and went out to, I was thinking about where to go, and I went to Tiffany. I think that was just, it's class and style, and also me, and like looking at the rings and going, I like that as well. You know, what kind of ring, what kind of style, what kind of history, tradition. I'm someone that loves tradition, and I'm someone that loves talking about tradition evolving in the modern world, but always with respect to where I come from, to where I can grow. I don't just want to break the mold without caring, or for breaking its sake. So that felt very much something that I saw in Tiffany as a product, and something that is classy and something that I would describe Adinia as classy with tradition, but modern, always evolving, and sparkling, inspiring and sparkling. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not just 2D about it. It's not just being cheeky. It was serious. It was like, yeah, this.
Yeah, you really put a lot into it.
And then I went to
a lot of thought.
I went
picking the ring.
Tried on some rings with my friend a few times. Went out a few days. So then, long story short, I bought the ring. And then we were on a call. This happens a lot in these stories because we're always FaceTiming because we're apart. New Year's Eve, so 31 Desember 2021. Kemudian di Jakarta.
Di Bali.
Oh, di Bali. Saya
spending New Year's with my dad.
Right, you were spending New Year's, dan saya dengan ibu saya di Australia. Yeah, so selatan dari Melbourne, where my mum's family grew up on the coast, so down the pantai, near Wilson's Promontory. And I'm on saya di pantai karena service reception nggak ada. tapi sedikit lokasi di pantai. So bisa like FaceTime sekarang.
Kalau balik ke rumah nggak bisa tuh. Jadi dia mesti di pantai.
So I was there and it's like...
Because we were working on his visa at that time.
Yeah.
Karena the borders are still closed but open.
Australia buka, tapi
Indonesia
tutup untuk VOA. So
harus apply visanya. So we're working on that visa at that time, but it was Nataru kan, liburan Natal dan Tahun Baru. Jadi it was very like, oh, what do we do?
Everything always changing. So it's like, okay, 2021 udah semangat, susah. We'll get together soon. We'll see you soon. And I remember it was jam 6.30 sore, yeah. And I remember chatting, and I saw Adinia's eyes just drop, like look up for you get a notifikasi or something, and her face just lit up. It was like, I was like, apa?
You got your visa. Dapat ternyata visanya.
So I ran back to my cousin's house because they had internet, the only place that had internet, and I booked a flight. 7 Januari. Pulang ke Melbourne. Terus
your flight got cancelled.
Jam 11 malam, January 2, flight cancelled. Like, so I booked lagi, terus jalan ke Singapura dan Jakarta 7 Januari, 7 hari karantin, terus keluar.
I was in production.
Yeah, you're rehearsing a production.
I was in pre-production.
Pre-production untuk mendua, ya? Mendua. So you're rehearsing. I got home sendiri. I'm like, yes, I'm home. Great. And then I pulled out the ring and a letter that I had made at the Tiffany store. And I hid them in a cupboard. And this was on the 14th of January.
Yeah.
Our anniversary, 2 Januari. Tapi
karena nggak bisa, jadi ya udah.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, let's go out for dinner on the 15th of January. And I was like, but it was just a few days away from my birthday. Why don't we go out dinner for my birthday? Tanggal 19 gitu kan. It was like, no, it's different. Your birthday is your birthday. And it was like, oh, okay. I bought it. Okay.
Your birthday is your birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Fine, begitu ya. Udah, aku ya aja.
And so then we went out to dinner. As we're leaving the house, it's like, aduh, saya lupa masker. But I'm wearing a mask. And we're like, yeah. It's like, disposable. Butuh satu lagi ya. So I like ran back inside, and I put the ring, put the card on the table. So it says my
heart,
dearest heart, on the table, and then keluar. And we go and have this beautiful dinner, and then we're going home. And
ada banyak inilah kayak ini itu gitu kayak.
And I'm like, aduh panas.
He's very quiet on the way home dari restoran kita. I thought jet lag kan mesti, tapi jet lag kan dia udah karantina ya sebetulnya. Waktu itu masih ada karantina kan, maybe he's just tired, ya udahlah gitu, giniin aja gitu kan. And then sampai rumah ada aja gitu kayak I want to do something, and he was like no, just stay. No, just stay. And then
you're like, aku mau teh.
He's like, belum. I'm making my tea. And then when I made my tea,
then you walked into the kitchen and there's this letter on the table.
Yeah, and I was like, what's this? And aku nggak tahu apa itu kan. It was like Tiffany & Co.
Like, looking at it, but I knew that she would have her back to me. So the letters on the table.
Belakang dia. Apaan ini sayang? And then
and I started walking and I went over to the cupboards and I pulled out the ring, and then I was like, you've got your back to me. I'm holding a ring. It's like, it's now or never, right? So I could just walk out. I was like, I do. Okay. Walked over, and then I got down on one knee.
Aku balik badan terus kayak
turned around.
There he is with a teal box opened.
And I probably said the fewest words I've ever said in my life.
Very concise.
Very concise, yeah. So I asked you if you would do me the honor of being my wife.
And I said, yeah.
And then we just sat on the kitchen floor and laughed and giggled and cried and told stories for an hour and just soaked in the feeling of being engaged.
It was a very easy question to answer. So, it comes naturally. I just see sebenarnya. Yes, of course, yes. And I joined him on his knees juga. So, yeah.
And it wasn't public, like no pressure, not that extra pressure.
Yeah, but you know me well.
Yeah.
It's like, in public, I would be like, can we just get this over done with? Jadi emang he knows me very well. So, and then we spend the whole week telling our friends and loved ones.
So that was the short story. Oh, how I started that journey to us getting engaged to where we. Yeah.
So Tiffany and Co is all him. I had nothing to do with it. I just had me.
Yeah. Shining bright like a diamond.
Oh. What is love for you? Are you going to write an essay?
I'm trying to be concise. There's a line from a Shakespeare play that comes straight into mind. It's all sighs and tears. It's from As You Like It, where it's talking of one of the characters is talking about what love is, and it's part of a comedy and it sets it all up, but it's using language in a really powerful way, and it really hits a spot with me sometimes. And one of the things is it's not about words necessarily, but whenever you sigh and whenever you cry, whether it's tears of joy, whether it's tears of pain or loss or sadness, and whenever you sigh, when you're happy or full or sad, those for me are the moments that I know I'm in love, because I'm more real. I'm experiencing life in a way that I never could alone. Whether that would be being a parent, being a child. When you cry and when you sigh as a child, you're connected to your parents so much. When you're a parent, I imagine it would be, having a puppy, I'm crying and sighing a lot more with him. But I'm not trying to be a man and push things down. I feel, and I love feeling, because it hurts sometimes. But the opposite of hurt is happiness and joy, and I feel so much happiness and joy in this world, in this life. So, to put it concisely, for me, love is sighs and tears.
Very poetic.
Surprised?
No. I think for me it's as simple as a home. It's that feeling of being home and not being alone, even when the struggle is very real, especially for our relationship, that it was during a global pandemic, during when both of our when both of our countries are closing itself from each other. So there's a lot of uncertainties and there's a lot of struggles, adversities, you name it, yeah. But that feeling of being home because I'm with him, even though we were apart, never left me. So it's that kind of safety whenever you go somewhere and kita nggak nyaman atau rasanya kayak aduh kok gue kayaknya di sini agak pengen cepat pulang gitu. And the cepat pulang is actually just either talking to him or just seeing him. dalam keadaan apapun. So I think, when it feels like home, that's love.